Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Wisdom from the Recliner, Volume 24. I'm going to give everyone a chance to jump on here as people are settling in from the weekend, and it's Sunday evening, Sunday night. If you got kids, hopefully they're like ours, they're in bed and asleep. Hey, Michael, welcome to tonight. Good to see you on here, buddy. And hey, Rachel, awesome. Glad to have you on here. But I'm going to talk about a post. I don't know if you've had a chance to see the post. I shared a post that I had written all the way back on December the 21st about this experience that I had at that moment along my journey of going to Ted's Mexican restaurant here in Tulsa. If you haven't had a chance to read it, or even if you did read it back then, I would really encourage you. Hey, Joe, good to have you on here. I'd really encourage you to go back. It's kind of lengthy, but it's really worth the read. And we were actually at Ted's again tonight for the first time as a family since that time 9 months ago. And so I shared the old post and made a few comments, but I'm going to talk a little bit about that here in a second. And then I want to talk a little bit about change and how do we embrace change? How do we trust that change will happen? How do we bring about change in our life? And then I want to end up by talking about appreciation and how do we live in appreciation. How do we share appreciation? How do we show appreciation? And how are we able to be conscious of that? So, hi Jeannie, glad to have you on here tonight. Anyway, I've been trying to relax as much as possible this weekend. My oldest son Addison leaves for Spain through his Spanish immersion program this Thursday. He's going to be gone for 8 weeks, so we're getting ready for that. Anyway, we celebrated his birthday this weekend because he's going to actually turn 11 while he's over in Spain. And so we had I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 other 10-year-old boys over here, and most of them stayed overnight. So I have to give most of the credit to my beautiful bride, Caroline. She handled most of it and stayed up pretty late with them, but she said really they were awesome, and he had a wonderful birthday and a great time, and so that was a lot of fun. And then we celebrated tonight with family on Caroline and I's side, so that was nice. But, just taking some deep breaths and getting ready for another wonderful week. Well, and that was on top of our big event that we had Friday night. I just felt like it went so good. I don't know if you guys have gotten a chance to look at some of the testimonials and some of the comments and some of the things that people shared about their experience, but it was just a really awesome evening. Hey Renee, thank you so much. Bless you as well. Glad you're on here. Hello Fran. Nice for you to join us. But it was such a good night, and although it won't quite be the same as we captured it all on video, my friend is in the process of editing it, and we will try to figure out what's going to be the easiest way to make that available, because it's like, over 3 hours worth of content, and I'm not sure exactly how we do that where people can hopefully download it or stream it. So we'll work on that in the next week or two and then make it available to everyone around the world. It was such great stuff shared. We had about 60 people, Joe, so it was a very nice sized crowd. And we had Steve Factor, my health coach, share on food. We had Terry Tillert share on things we can do in our home regarding air, water, and sleep. Really good information. I interviewed Caroline, and she answered 3 questions, including very specific information about the Grease blood test that everyone's going to want to hear. And then I did a slideshow of my timeline and just shared my story with pictures. It was powerful, guys. So you're going to want to pick that up. You're going to want to see it. You're going to want to watch it. You're going to want to share it with friends. It's going to be really good. Hello, Sandy. Glad to have you on here. So anyway, I want to jump right into my three topics tonight. And the first topic I called TEDS, but I wanted to kind of back up and visit a little bit about this weekend. So most of you, if you've been following our journey and my journey for any length of time, you know we've made some very radical changes in the food that we eat. Hello, Beth. Thank you so much. I feel good, and what you see is true, and what you get, and I feel healthy. So thank you so much. But and I've made the most drastic changes, although Caroline's pretty much changed right along with me, and I can't even begin to say what a difference that's made for me, that she would be willing to make those changes right along with me. And then we've obviously made some big changes with our children, but of course we have a little bit more grace and are allowing a little bit longer transition time for them. And we're definitely not interested in being food Nazis, and we're not going to be, unreasonable about the fact that we still live on planet Earth and there's a lot of factors that go in. But something that I want to say tonight, David, I'll try to get to your question towards the end. Don't let me forget, okay? I'll be happy to, let me share what I have to say on a few topics, and then I'll be glad to answer that question before we go tonight regarding cannabis oil, okay? But I realize that we're going to spend about 2/3 of our life in our home. And so my encouragement tonight is if we all decided that we were going to work on making our home an area of clean eating, that real food was what was going to be eaten in our home, and everything else was basically going to be eliminated and not allowed into the home. It was going to be fruits and vegetables, or 90% or 95 or 98% of that. Then it's much harder to control our environment. It's a little bit more challenging if you're traveling, or if you go to a birthday party, or if you have events, or if you have a family function, or if you've got to meet people out at a restaurant. We figure if we're completely clean and healthy, and putting all the right things in our body from a real food standpoint 60, 70, 80% of the time, because we just don't allow any of the unhealthy stuff in our home, then that sets us up for the other third of our life to not have as great of negative impact on us, even though we still at times will probably make some good choices and be healthy and still eat fruits and vegetables as much as we can. But we're also going to have some freedom there that we're not going to flip out every time we don't necessarily. Thank you, Sheila. Glad to have you on here tonight. So good to see you. Hello, Katura. And of course, we make exceptions, right? Like, just because we make exceptions, we don't want to make exceptions the rule. So, look, I mean, this weekend, Addison had a party, our oldest son, and we ordered pizza, and Caroline made cupcakes, and we had potato chips, for an example, and we bought Gatorade. So I feel like we've done a great job of always sharing and being transparent and vulnerable. The only reason that we're doing that is just to do it. We're not suggesting that we make all the right decisions, because we don't. We're not suggesting that we have all the answers, because we surely don't. And we're still learning. We're still growing. This whole change in lifestyle and changing what we eat, it's a process, And so we don't know exactly how we're going to handle all these things that before, we weren't even conscious of the food that was, being put in our bodies, or food that we were going to have for a party or whatever it may be. And, so we even had to work through our own emotions this weekend. How are we going to handle that? So the way we handled it this time is we just said, hey, we're not going to try to figure out how we're going to be, super healthy this weekend, and we're going to let our guard down a little bit, and we're just going to focus on having a good time and having fun. And then, if there's things that we see that we might want to do different in the future, so be it. Hi, Kimberly. Hey, Jennifer. Hello, Melanie. Greg Baca. What's up, buddy? Good to have you on here, man. And so, I'm just sharing this, okay? So like today, then, we actually overbought on the pizza, and we had a couple of whole pizzas left in the refrigerator, and we realized we'd bought way too much, right? Well, we just threw it out. We decided the lesser of the two evils for us is, yeah, we lost a little bit of money, and Lord knows none of us like wasting any money. But us eating all that pizza over the next couple of days and warming it up in a microwave was not going to get that money back. So we were just going to compound one decision with another one that didn't really serve us well. So we just threw it out. It doesn't need to be around here. It served its purpose. We allowed that for the party, but that's not something we're going to have in this home on a regular basis, okay? And then actually I kind of made a mistake. I didn't mean to. It's just kind of, how we're working through all this, but there were some leftover cupcakes. I didn't realize that those were going to be taken to the party tonight with family. And I'm just thinking, hey, it served its purpose. We don't need those around, so I threw them in the trash. Well, that was, I should have asked Caroline first, right? She showed me mercy and grace and understood that it is kind of emotional because we want to eat healthy. And so we don't allow those types of things in our home on a regular basis because, why have them there? If they're not there, then it's so much easier to change the habits, especially the ones that we've been participating in for 35 years, Hi, Raquel. Hello, Mary Jo. And so, again, I don't know if there's a point to what I'm sharing. I'm just telling you how this is working. I hope that maybe one day in the future, when things aren't quite as hectic and, my father's not living with us and maybe we're completely beyond cancer in our family, that maybe we'll be able to think of more creative ways where even having a party, we can still have all the real food and the healthy stuff and still have a good time and handle the, kids that are coming over and all that. But in the meantime, we're not going to condemn ourselves. We're not going to feel angry. We're not going to, stir up all the wrong emotions. We're going to be free and we're going to be okay. And we embrace messiness, and it's not about perfection. And we know the direction we're headed in, and we're real happy about that. And then we let the boys have donuts this morning. It's so cool. Caroline and I chose not to grab a donut. We could have, and I don't think either one of us would have felt guilty about it. But the last time we had one, the sugar, the high processed sugar content kind of messed both of us up. And so we didn't really like how we felt. So I think that kind of, just kind of resonated in our hearts. And so, she wouldn't have got on me if I had one. I'm not going to get on her if she'd had one. Boys had them. Okay, no big deal, Anyway, guys, it really is. It really is hard to do well if you have all the things you don't want constantly put in your face. We are human beings. We do live on planet Earth. So if we're going to be in our home 2/3 of the time, hello, Don. Hello, Janice. I'm doing well. So glad you guys joined tonight. If we're going to be in our home 2/3 of the time, why not make it a haven? Why not just cut out and just say we're not going to have processed food. We're not going to have fake food. The next time when we build our own home in the future, we're not even going to have them put in a microwave at all, whatever. Okay? And so, like the other night, Caroline found herself hungry at 10 o'clock at night. She was just telling me this today. And she just knew she needed something and she wanted something, even though it was like, kind of like, well, I should go on to bed or whatever. And she said, Ryan, I went in there and there was nothing available other than fruits and vegetables. So she ended up eating a couple of bananas and she was fine and she went to bed. Folks, if we'd have had processed food and a bunch of junk in the pantry, she would have eaten it. Okay? She's human. We're not superhuman. We're not super disciplined. We're not like better than people. We're just thinking this out and we're setting ourselves up for success. Set yourself up for success. Okay? And so we had a great weekend, lots of fun. And then, we just now are going to direct our children. We were already doing it tonight. We're already having them eat more fruit to kind of detox and clean them out. In fact, here's what's interesting, okay? So we then actually went out tonight to eat at Ted's. Sorry, I lost connection there for a second. If you have not had a chance to read the post that I shared back from a post that I put on December the 21st, I just implore you, I encourage you, you got to go read it. And you got to look at the pictures too of what I looked like, and what I was going through. You know, hey Charlie, what's up, stud? Hey Jacqueline, good to have you on here. You got to go check out that post. I mean, take 2 minutes, read it, and then it would just thrill me if you were willing to let that sink in tonight and maybe this week. What's some issues that you'd be willing to work through in your own life? What's some things you'd be willing to be honest about and challenge yourself to walk in freedom and not worry about what anybody thinks, not worry about being criticized, not worrying about getting it right, just more concerned about working through them so you can live in freedom, okay? So you got to go read the post to kind of understand what I'm about to say. But tonight we went to Ted's. Anyway, I just decided to drink a green smoothie before we went so that I would already be pretty satisfied, and then I wouldn't be as tempted to want to eat a lot of that. But I gave myself total freedom to eat whatever I wanted to eat tonight at Ted's restaurant. I totally did. I just absolutely gave myself that freedom. Whereas if you read the post, you'll remember that I wasn't able to quite live in that freedom at that moment back in December. I was working through all that. You know what's interesting tonight? I had some chips and guacamole and some chips and salsa, and I had one flour tortilla with some salsa. And I looked at the menu, and there was cheese dip in front of me, and there was sopapillas, you know, with cinnamon and sugar that I've loved in the past. Those were all available for free at the end, and there were all kinds of options. And you know what's interesting? I just decided I didn't want anything else. And honestly, after like the first little bit where I ate some chips and I ate the one scoop of guacamole and the one tortilla, it didn't do a whole lot for me. But I didn't feel deprived. It wasn't hard. I sat there for 2 hours, no problem, smiled, laughed, engaged with my family, with it all around me. It was so cool. And I thought, man, how many times are we worried about just because something seems hard now, we don't trust that if we keep taking another step, keep pushing through a little bit more, keep going in the direction we want, we don't realize that later on down the road, it actually gets easier. It really does. Like tonight, I had the total freedom to eat anything I wanted, and I basically didn't really choose to eat much that was unhealthy. Like I can't even explain it. I could have. It was right there. It was available. And I said, whatever, Like, for some of us, and I didn't realize this about me, food has become like an idol. It's like such a damn freaking big deal in our life. Well, food ain't that big a deal for me anymore, right? Like, I'm looking at food now like, what you gonna do for me, food? You gonna love me? You gonna give me energy? You gonna make my life better? You gonna allow me to do what I do and do it with enthusiasm and without aches and pains and all that, right? Like, I don't need fucking food to give me some stupid ass pleasure, pardon my French, right? Man, I mean, I want to get pleasure from living life. Now, here's what's cool, and I know Jacqueline would agree with me on this. The neat thing is the more I get into understanding raw food and my taste buds change and I really get tuned in to fruits and vegetables and combinations and all these cool things you can prepare in the raw vegan world, I'm like, whoa, man, like my taste buds are exploding and these things are delicious and they love me back and I'm satisfied and it's just, wow. Sorry, Teresa. You know what? My kids hear me cuss all the time, I should probably do an entire wisdom from the recliner on that, In fact, I'll veer off for just 1 second, and then I want to move into change and appreciation, and then I want to answer some questions, including David's about cannabis oil, okay? So, my son, I don't know, maybe like a year or two ago, he actually got in trouble at school for saying the word dick and the word fuck, okay? And so he came home, and I didn't freak out, I didn't panic, and I just talked to him. And I first asked him if he actually knew what the words meant. Well, he knew what the D word meant, but he didn't know what the F word meant at all. He had no clue. And then I just asked him, why were you saying them, or where did you hear them from? And of course, him and some of his buddies, some of the other kids were saying the words, and he thought it was funny, and he was just joining in. And he said, Dad, I don't know. We were just being silly, right? And so I just explained to him that there's really no difference between saying pee-pee or dick or penis or privates. I don't care, right? I mean, they all mean the same thing. Society has decided which of them are considered appropriate and which ones are not, okay? My kids are not going to get in trouble for saying a word just because society decided that it's not appropriate, okay? He's definitely not going to get in trouble for saying a word he doesn't even know the meaning of. So I explained to that. I'm like, you're not in trouble. I'm like, but what you have to understand, Addison, though, is there are, the world we live in, there are times and places where certain words aren't necessarily appropriate. And I said school would be one of those ways, or one of those places. And I said, so you can't expect that if you chose to use those words along with some other ones, that it could be consequential and you could get in trouble if you do that. You know what? We've never had another problem with him, ever, right? It's not that big a deal. You know what the bigger deal is, folks? It's not whether or not they say fuck or shit or hell or damn or dick or penis or sex or all these, okay? That is not the issue. You know what the issue is? What's in their heart? What's the intent? Like, you could say a bunch of nice words with an evil intent and be really ugly towards your brother or your sister, or towards your parents, or towards friends, or towards people, right? You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, I could tell a joke and use a cuss word and have everyone in stitches. And I mean, we're laughing, right? And the Bible even says, laughter is medicine to the bones. See, folks, words have no meaning until we put meaning to them. So maybe instead of everybody flipping out because somebody said fuck or shit or hell or damn or dick or penis or sex or whatever, right? Folks, that's not what we should, we're missing the point. How about we look in our hearts? How about we figure out what our identity is? Why don't we figure out what kind of stuff's going on in our belief system? Why are we misbehaving? Or why are we being kind? Or why are we being nice? See, folks, when we believe who we are, okay, and we believe the truth, we're not going to speak evil towards anyone. That's just not who we are. But when we think we're something we're not, okay, we don't even need to use any words that our society considers bad or ugly or whatever. We can say a bunch of what we consider nice, kind words, and we can do it in the ugliest of manner. That's what I want to teach my kids. I'm not concerned about which words they use. I'm concerned about how they use them and what's really going on inside of them. Because the way we speak to other people is just a reflection of the way we speak to ourselves and what's really going on inside. And that's what really matters. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. I don't want to veer off on that right now. So anyway, so the second thing I want to talk about was change. Okay, how do we embrace change? Well, one, change is a long-term thing. And I'm a firm believer that change flows from a change in belief system. Okay, my 8-year-old son, Aiden, wants me to tell you he's eating a banana. High five, Aiden. Woo, baby, you stud, man. Ain't nothing better than eating fruit, baby. Oh, it's so good, Michael. That's so true, man. In the South, my friend from Atlanta, Georgia says, people use the phrase, bless their heart, which is basically cursing someone out, right? I know, man. I mean, oh yeah. Anyway, we can veer off on that. So anyway, back to change. Change, I believe, flows from a change in belief system, a change in mind. When our heart becomes persuaded of thinking differently, of seeing the world differently, of getting a new perspective than what we've had, then the actual real physical change, I believe, actually is effortless. Like permanent change should not be us trying to white knuckle it or will ourselves to be different or do different, okay? What it really is about is when we believe different, when we think differently, when we're persuaded of new truth that set us free in an area that we need to change in because we're in bondage to that, okay? And so change can take time because overhauling our belief system can take time. We have to hear new stuff and new information and different truth. And it has to hit us more than one time usually. Many times it can take a lot of impressions before we're persuaded in our heart to embrace it and that become our new way of living. And so, guys, I saw a difference tonight. I saw that 9 months ago I was at one place when I went to Ted's Mexican restaurant, and tonight I was at a completely different place 9 months later. And I was so encouraged by that. And I thought, those 9 months were going to go by anyway. And how much further along can I be in another 9 months? Not 9 seconds, not 9 minutes, not even 9 days. Maybe sometimes the challenge with change is that we give ourselves these unrealistic time frames and these unrealistic expectations of where we should be or where we ought to be or where we're supposed to be, or we listen to people trying to tell us that. All I can say is, thou shalt not should on thyself, okay? Folks, embrace change at the belief level. Embrace change as something that takes time. Let your heart be persuaded. Keep hearing the truth about an area that you want to be set free in, that you want to have bondage, that you want to be rescued from the bondage that you feel like you're in. And give yourself grace, love yourself, and trust that over time, if you keep pursuing that truth, if you keep pursuing being persuaded in your heart, and you keep changing your thinking and changing your mind, eventually you will physically manifest that new habit, and it won't seem so hard down the road. It just really won't. The last thing I want to get into real quick before I answer a few questions is appreciation. And man, if I do nothing else in my life, I hope that those closest to me not only feel my appreciation, but they hear my appreciation. And I know that one of the best things I've learned to do in my life is to live with a consciousness of what I appreciate constantly, and to verbalize that to people, and to never miss an opportunity to express to someone through deed and through word about how much I appreciate them, how much I appreciate what they do, and how much I appreciate their life and how they add value to me. And I want to continue living that way. And so I'm just going to give you a couple of examples tonight. Guys, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate my wife, Caroline. This weekend, on top of everything that she already does for our family, which we'd all be put to sleep if I gave you the exhausting list of what she pulls off. And she does it, as Terry Tillert said, who was in our home this weekend after speaking on Friday night, he said, and she always does it with a smile on her face. What a graceful woman. But I appreciate her because she has continued to learn about how to set aside things that maybe she used to thought needed to get done, and how she's able to then focus in on what's important in the moment. And she had told me back when we planned this birthday party that depending on how I felt, look, she was ready for it. She could pull it off. The two little kids were going to be spending the night somewhere else, and that I didn't have to necessarily worry about that. And if I went to bed early and slept in, she could handle it. She'd stay up late. I mean, I'm just telling you, she volunteered. It's just incredible. But anyway, I took Atlanta and Arthur over to my sister-in-law's house. And when I came back, there was Caroline in the backyard out there with these 9 or 10-year-old boys, and she had come up with these really fun games with water balloons and sacks, and she was out there, and they were having the absolute best time. And I just felt so much appreciation for her. I thought, what a mom, what a woman with all that's been going on with me. We just had this huge event the night before. She had done so much to make that happen. Then, of course, we've got my dad living with us Monday through Friday. We got everything she's been researching and doing and trying to help with all that. And yet she was conscious enough about the moment that she was living in, and she was out there making sure that her and our son Addison and those friends of his had the time of their life. And I'm telling you, they did, because I asked the boys as they all left today if they had a good time, and you could see the genuineness on their face. They loved it. What a party. What a time, man. Love going to the Lelf's house, man. Sure love it when Addison has a party, right? Caroline, I appreciate you. You are not, it's just like the song said at our wedding, God must have spent a little more time on you, because words can't even express how much you are appreciated. And I know by so many of you that she has helped, that she answers questions, that you watch her example. And anyway, another person I wanted to appreciate tonight is my sister-in-law, Shanna. She took Atlanta and Arthur, kept them overnight, took them to church with her this morning, and kept them all afternoon until we met up for the birthday party this evening. I told her how much I appreciated her. I gave her a hug. I went out of my way 2 or 3 times. I really want her to know. It does. It means a lot, because she has 2 little kids herself, and I know that that's extra effort. It can be extra taxing, and she did that for us and freed up Caroline and me for Addison and that party and gave us a little bit of a break. And I just appreciate her. I have so much love and admiration and respect for her, because she's done this more than once along this journey, and she did it again. And I'm so thankful that I'm conscious enough not to miss the opportunity. And surely she knows how much I appreciate her in her heart. And if not, maybe she's watching this at some point. And I think all of us, when you feel that appreciation for someone, don't be silent, please. Even if you're nervous, even if you don't think it's going to come out right, it don't matter. I'm telling you, even if you don't think it's going to mean anything, it really does. I promise you. My wife, we've read the 5 Love Languages book, and my wife's not even words of affirmation. And she always tells me, though, don't stop telling me and affirming me and saying all the things about how much you love me and appreciate me, because even though that may not be one of my top 2 love languages, I still love hearing it. And it still matters to me, and it still makes a difference, okay? So I just appreciate Shanna, and I love you, Shanna, and thank you for your help this weekend. Folks, as I wrap up here, and then I'll answer a few questions, I've been overtaken this weekend with emotion. I wish everyone who's been a part of this journey could have sat in one of those chairs on Friday night and been a part of the evening we put together. I know there'll be more in the future, and it's going to be special, again, because we speak from the heart. We share the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups and downs. And if you go read that post I shared all the way back from December, in case you forgot or you're newer to my journey, you'll realize we don't have anything to hide. We don't sit over here and pretend. We don't act like we always make the right decisions or the best decisions, or I'm not even sure if that exists. We simply just share our life, and we hopefully bring to surface topics and real life situations that I believe almost all of us are facing. And sometimes we don't even know how to work through them, or we don't know how to deal with them. And we don't know exactly what we're supposed to learn from it, or how we're to get to a good place and move beyond it. But I think what we do a good job of is we don't shove things under the rug. We don't act like, our feelings aren't real. We don't act like we're not dealing with stuff. We don't try to be unauthentic or fake or put on some show. And because of that, the results are Caroline and I, we are in love. We really are. and we have this connection. I love it because we go out sometimes, still to this day, I kid you not, and people ask us if we just got married. They do. They see us holding hands, or they see us acting the way we are, and they just look on, and it saddens me. I'm like, wow, so is it so bad in so many marriages, for example, that every time we see a couple who actually act like they like each other and are into each other and love each other, that we just assume, like, oh, they must be newlyweds. Well, why can't they been married 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, right? You know, I mean, wow. I just, yeah, it's incredible, right? The connection with my kids, as someone put recently, it's undeniable. Why? Because I'm a perfect dad? Far from it. Are you kidding me? I make mistakes left and right. All I can tell you is I'm an engaged dad. I put forth effort. I'm trying. And I fall back on one of my favorite life philosophies from one of my all-time heroes, Art Williams. All we can do is all we can do, but all we can do is enough. Folks, I'm telling you, when we don't work through our own issues, when we shove things under the rug, when we act like there isn't anything there between us and our spouse, or us and our kids, or us and family members, and we become too afraid to actually sit down and work through them and address them, they don't go away. They don't get better. They get worse. And if we are maxed out and we can't even handle life under what most people consider pretty decent or good circumstances, then what in the world are we going to do when shit hits the fan? When cancer invades our family, when tragedy occurs, when we lose a job, when money is scarce and we don't know what we're going to do? How are we going to handle that if we can't even deal with issues and handle things before anything major goes wrong here on planet Earth? I'm asking you, and I'm encouraging you, and I want you to be persuaded in your heart and believe that it is not better to run from issues. It is not better to shove them under the rug. It is not better to avoid them. It is better to face them, to work through them, even if it's hard, even if it's tough, and even if it's scary. God is inviting us to go there and to work through stuff. Because if we don't, our kids have to work through all their stuff, and they have to work through our stuff. Our friends have to work through their stuff and our stuff. Our family has to work through their stuff and our stuff. Folks, the stuff planet Earth's hit me with is plenty. I don't need anyone else's stuff to deal with on top of my own stuff. So let's be honest. Real courage, real living, real bravery, real inspiration is when we're willing to deal with our stuff and work through it. As painful as it may be, there's freedom on the other side. As hard as it may be, there's freedom on the other side. As many tough conversations as we might have to dive into, there's freedom on the other side. There's intimacy in our marriage waiting for us. No matter what we've been through, no matter the hurt, no matter the pain, no matter what, there's intimacy in our family relationships waiting on us. There's intimacy with some close friends where it doesn't have to be, the surface talk and the bullshit stories that we all keep, buying into that really just keep us frustrated, down, depressed, insecure, nervous, and exhausted, right? So I love you all so much, And anyway, I want to get back to a couple of questions. David asked me earlier as I wrap up here. This is Wisdom from the Recliner, by the way, volume 24, if you're just tuning in. It's a good one. You might want to go back and watch it later. And definitely read the post that I shared from back in December. It's pretty touching, okay? So David asked me about cannabis oil. I will tell you that when I did my grease blood test, we had cannabis oil tested against my blood, and it did actually rank fairly high. It was probably in my top 15 as far as things that showed that it would probably work and my body would respond to. I'm not currently using it. I have nothing against it. I've heard great testimonials and great stories. I just have enough other things that ranked higher that I can be using right now that are working, that I'm getting great results with. And honestly, the one time I did try cannabis, I know it depends on the exact formula you get, and honestly, we haven't dived into it enough to know how much of each part of it you get, but I don't like the fact that it can make you tired, and I definitely wouldn't want to be made kind of high, or where I'm not totally in charge of my mind and my brain and all that. And so it's on the potential list if we ever think I need something else, if what I'm doing is not working. But at this time, since I'm getting such great results with what I'm already doing, and because some other things I'm doing were ranked actually even higher on my grease blood test, we're just focused on staying the course, and we're going to continue doing what we're doing. In the 1st of November, I'm going to be getting another PET scan and then a CTC, which is circulating tumor cells, to find out if it's still in my blood or not. And then actually, we're going to be talking to Terry Tillert a little bit more because we're going to basically do even maybe a live blood test, and we're going to be focused more on making sure all my organs are healthy. He made a really great point this weekend. He said, instead of worrying about whether you still got cancer or not, he said, what if we just focused on whether we're healthy or not? And he said the way to know if we're healthy or not is a live blood test and to be testing the organs. He said if all of our organs are working perfectly and they're in optimal health, cancer has no chance, baby. I thought, wow, I love his perspective, right? Instead of getting scans all the time and being brought back to maybe what could be a place of fear for people, what if we started getting tests that were about, are we healthy or not? And we were looking forward, and we were thinking about the new way of living and the new lifestyle. Anyway, man, I tell you, by the way, if you're not following Terry Tillert, I really enjoyed getting to know him. He spent about 4 hours with us on Saturday after the event, and it was just great. I learned so much, and I want to continue to learn from him. Terry, if you're tuned in, buddy, as I messaged you, hey, buddy, we're friends for life unless you change your mind, all right? But seriously, looking forward to building a great friendship with him. Renee, I will post a link under your comment to my blog. We haven't updated it in about the last probably 6 to 8 weeks, and we hope to, as Caroline's got several blogs that she wants to write. It's just been a matter of having the time. But it literally, chronically, in order, details our journey from day one up until about 60 days ago. And then you can get the last 60 days from all my Facebook posts and videos and things that I share. But you may enjoy reading that. And I'll also post a link to the first video I really made that went viral, and it's been seen about 250,000 times on Facebook. And I've got a few others that I've also got on that YouTube channel as well. So I'll post that here. Anyway, guys, I'm going to check out, and I'll see you next time on Wisdom from the Recliner. Again, love, grace, joy, happiness, peace. This isn't about me. This is about all of us. Let's live well. Let's go, be, act, do, and let's let the inspiration that we derive from anyone and everyone be something that actually resonates enough in our heart that we go and live well, and we go and experience happiness, and we go and walk in love and joy and peace and mercy and grace. Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't affect us to the core and it doesn't bring about something better in our life, we can be happy for other people, and I'm all about that. But I want to see people be happy for themselves, and I want to see it truly make a difference in their life, okay? Love y'all. Good night. God bless you all. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.